Welcome to BofC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BofC Live highlights the company's brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on this BofC Live, we connect with Dean Friday. He's the CEO, and Jonathan Nadler, the Group Managing Director of LYPHE Group. LYPHE Group is the UK's leading provider of medical cannabis, and they've recently announced an expansion into the Swiss market. We wanted to connect with them to talk about both. Dean and Jonathan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, Jay.
Well,
great to be here.
Great, thank you. We look forward to making this connection because we obviously have mutual connections, but we like to have people on with UK accents. It really elevates what we're doing here at Business of Cannabis. So it's helpful for us, audience generation, when we have people that sound smarter than us. Dean, I want to start with you. Give us an overview about what LYPHE Group is and sort of a quick on the origins of the company.
Sure, absolutely. Look, LYPHE Group's been around since third quarter of 2018. In quite simple terms, we're the biggest medical cannabis business in the UK by both patient numbers, revenues, any metric you like. And our business is on the march now into the rest of Europe. So we've set our roots down into the Channel Islands now, and then most recently Switzerland. We're about to announce another couple of ventures into new markets as well. Some of the other bigger markets in Europe, namely Poland and Germany, within the next few months. So we're on the march. We're a vertically integrated business, all the way through from importation, manufacturing, wholesale, and direct-to-patient pharmacy dispensing. And then we also have a clinic which facilitates direct-to-patient consultation services as well, specializing in cannabinoid therapies. We operate at the intersection of health tech and medical cannabis. So we're very much digitally enabled in all aspects. It's a big feature of how we think and the way in which we design and build our business. And as an extension of that, we consult to our patients entirely via telemedicine, and our pharmacy is a digital pharmacy and very much operates in the tech space. I mentioned before our size in the market. We have about a 60% share of UK patients in the UK market, which is pretty phenomenal in wherever you're from. And look, our business is looking to activate more downstream than upstream than I guess what a lot of listeners from North America might be familiar with. You might have noted that we don't cultivate. It's not an intention of ours to enter that space. We're focused on building brands specifically around a cannabis dispensing brand, the most recognized cannabis product brand, and then also the cannabis clinics brands that we're looking to make household names, which they clearly already very much are. But we're looking to, that's a key feature of our strategy in Europe, in the UK, as well as in the rest of the European markets that we're addressing.
I realize I've insulted you because you're Australian at the top. So, well, I don't know if I've insulted you or I've insulted Jonathan.
Maybe both of us.
Yeah, maybe. I think I just insulted everybody, both in the UK and Australia. But Jonathan, talk a little bit about. Dean was talking about sort of the 2018 start. Like, were there other markets then and now that you're looking at to see how sort of medical cannabis and even more specifically, like the tech of that and how patients are accessing, how doctors are finding it? Like, are you looking at other markets and saying, we want to mimic that? Or are you saying, we understand this market so completely that this is almost something net new versus what we see in other places?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, we set out in 2018, laying the foundations for the industry here in the UK. That there was absolutely nothing. It was barren land. We were the first business to come to market, the first ones to bring product in, the first ones to see patients. Every other week it was a new first for us. And when it comes to looking at how we build technologies and infrastructure for our ecosystem, we we borrow from other industries more than we do from cannabis. You know, we look at successful pharmacy online systems. We look at clinical functions that do particularly well in the UK and other parts of Europe. And so we take the best bits from those verticals. And then when it comes to how we adapt them for the cannabis market, there's so much regulation and compliance here that, you know, when I say here, I mean the whole of Europe, including the UK, that you really have to know that inside out. If you don't know that bit of it, you're in serious trouble. So we're extremely good at the compliance and regulation side of things, and we're able to take advantage of that IP that we have by building up the features and functions that can accommodate us against those regulations. You know, so we butt up to them. We know how close to get to them. We know how to work with them. And when it comes to other European markets, exactly the same goes. You know, we're building out the features and functions for cannabis dispensing that no one else has ever built before, because they haven't had to, because it's such an irregular drug to have in the market. So yeah, you know, we're innovators in that sense, and it's something we pride ourselves on. You know, we have a lot of tech experience inside the company. We've actually just launched the medical advisory board, and on that we have some really high-powered guys from places like Walgreens, you know, who have been spending the last 15, 20 years of their careers building out softwares that work into the NHS here into the UK. So we're very rigorous when it comes to technologies, and we're very innovative when it comes to technologies. And it's all around kind of building things for the first time, building things to hit regulations.
It's very compelling. And Dean, I want to ask you, because obviously the technology, the integration, and the compliance are the foundation of the company. Has it, all of that thought that went into that prior to COVID, like, just seems like good planning, like really thoughtful stuff. Has it changed how people are integrating with the technology through COVID, as much as it has sort of in North America? We've had lots of conversations around how people are using tech more regularly, more readily, more comfortably. Like we expanded, I don't know, 10 years in 10 months. Like, have you seen the same thing on your platforms?
Yeah, look, very much so. We designed our business to be a digitally enabled business. It was always our goal to have our business, you know, as much online and in the cloud as we possibly could. So look, that was always part of the grand plan, but that really it wasn't entirely permitted by the regulations back in 2019. Now, with the onset of COVID, there were some regulatory changes and tweaks that were introduced. And look, we were just perfectly positioned for that, to take advantage of that. So that was really how it came about. It certainly, you know, we built our business to adapt and to work in the regulatory environment that we saw ahead of us, but we certainly were right from the outset very much digitally enabled, and so we're able to capitalize on that when it came to pass. And look, that's been now that you pointed out, you know, really the secret of the success. I think the secret sauce, because we've been able to build to scale and to manage and navigate that regulatory environment through, you know, the use of technology. And in doing so, capture, you know, such a significant share of the market.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, Jonathan. I want to go to you, because what we often talk about, whether we're talking about, you know, consumer-facing products or medical cannabis or really, you know, ag tech, whatever it is, it's like you need to be nimble in the cannabis space, because you know that, like, the one constant is going to be the regulations are going to change. Then things happen like COVID, where everything sort of changes, and the regulations atop that. So it really is sort of based on this nimble sort of framework, and always preparing for the future and for scale and all those things. But I also wonder, because obviously we're mostly focused here in North America, but talk a little bit about the frameworks in Europe and where you expect them to be going, and talk a little bit about the recent sort of expansion into Switzerland as well.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if you look at Europe, the population here is pretty much double North America. It's set out like an MSO structure would be set out to accommodate the North American market, in that you have lots of European markets buttled up next to each other. Their regulations are all very different from place to place, and clearly it's very challenging to cross borders with product and cash. So the great thing about the last kind of 3 or 4 years here is, clearly Germany is the standout leader across Europe when it comes to medical cannabis. 120,000 patients apparently is the current number. 9 tons of flower last year, probably 20 tons this year. And the other markets around the outside of that are really starting to find ways to catch up. So, for example, in Switzerland, you're seeing changes in the way of prescribing, which will take it from a market that has had maybe 3,000 or 4,000 patients to date to probably somewhere in the region of 100,000 by the end of next year, or maybe early the year after. Significant jump in patient numbers, and we're looking to really capitalize on that. We're very happy in these nascent markets where there's very few players and people don't really understand the regulation and compliance. So we like the fact that we can move into places like Switzerland, which we did only a week or so back with the opening of our Swiss office, where we're able to take advantage of using our ecosystem, using the blueprint that we spent so many painstaking days working on here in the UK to get right, to give us a 6% market share, and assessing how we can flex it in these other European markets very quickly. So, we've had people on the ground in places like Switzerland for almost a year, really analysing the nuances of how the market is going to open, so that we can build our softwares and to accommodate that market, what it's going to be like in a year's time from now, but how we can trade off it today. And that's going to be mirrored across the whole of Europe. So, before we know it, people will be looking over from North America saying, wow, what's happening in Europe? It's got almost as big as the US. And then I believe the statisticians that are reporting that by the end of 2025, it might even be bigger than the US from a medical perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and Dean, I want to get your thoughts on this, because even sort of in the US framework, when new states open up or add medical programs or add adult use, this is the way it seems to me. They are taking what they've learned in the crappy stuff that happened before and trying to improve upon it. Are you seeing that in the European market as well, where people are saying, we saw the rollout in Germany, or see the rollout in Germany, they're doing these things right, these things wrong, we want to fix it or make it better or change things in these ways? Is there sort of this learning curve in Europe and European jurisdictions? And I guess the other part of that is, are they getting better at it? And I guess, is it accelerating?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's, again, really interesting, in particular because I guess the first movers in a lot of these European markets that had the critical mass, the capital, and the supply chain and so on and so forth were a lot of the big Canadians, all guns blazing, buying assets without really a sophisticated go-to-market strategy or a clear idea in terms of the regulatory frameworks in each market and how best to navigate them. And look, we'll always point that out as being a key part of, I guess, our approach, and I guess the best approach in these European markets is you need to be really thoughtful and really considered about that go-to-market strategy. There's a European framework that overarches everything, and then each country is very different from all the down the vertical all the way through, from clinical consultation through to the way in which a pharmacy can be owned, can prescribe, how product can be delivered, and so on, and then also through the supply chain. There's again very different approaches in each of these European states. So again, that industry knowledge and that sophisticated go-to-market strategy, as we've touched on a number of times on this call already, is really key. We find in terms of the approach. Is it accelerating? And are people learning from their mistakes? Yeah, look, I think so. Look, I mean, people are going to come in with different approaches and probably going to target more narrower ends of the spectrum and with perhaps different approaches and targeting different ends of the value chain. And so, look, everyone's going to be learning and looking at the competitors that are existing at the moment and picking up what they can. So you'd expect that things will improve pretty shortly. But yeah, the one big kind of learning that we've seen is that the all guns blazing approach hasn't worked, and you've got to be more thoughtful, and it's not about who has the most amount of money wins in these particular markets.
Well, if we could have taken that snippet and applied it to 2018 and 2019 here in Canada, there may be many more people better off than they are today. But want to thank you, Jonathan, and you, Dean, for spending time with us. We look forward to connecting with you down the road, hearing about the company and where things stand on the European and in UK. But thanks for your time. We'll connect with you down the road.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Jay.
That was Dean Friday and Jonathan Nadler of LYPHE Group. If you like this program, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you heard the show. It helps support the work we do. We're able to do what we do because of our ongoing partners, including Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque & Main. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.